and boom, we've got it. I've come all the way to Canada. I'm in Mission, which is about an hour east as you drive from Vancouver in Canada. I'm on a Waverunner and I'm fishing where no one has ever fished on a Waverunner before. I'm fishing the mighty Fraser River and I'm fishing for sturgeon. Sturgeon are a species that's over 150 million years old. And I mean, just that alone is incredible. So I'm on this river, I'm going to be fishing with a local charter guy, but I'm going to be on the ski because no one in the world has ever caught a sturgeon from a ski before. When I said to people I'm coming to Canada to try and catch a sturgeon on a ski, they kind of looked at me funny, and even the skipper yesterday, we turned up and met the skipper before coming out today, and I said to him, "Oh, do you mind if I bring a ski tomorrow?" And he said, no, it's fine, and kind of had a chuckle, thinking I was laughing. But anyway, turned up this morning with the Waverunner, and here we are. And even though you're fighting a big fish, the ski is a very, very stable platform. In this river, my plan is to kind of start it up and click it into forward gear. And when you're in forward gear, you can go forward at about 2.5 to 3 knots. And in the average strength of this river, that's perfect to hold me about level with where I need to be. So then if I need to drift down the river with the fish, I can click into neutral. If I want to hold, I can click back into forward gear and just hold. Hold relative to land, but obviously the water's going past at 3 knots. There's going to be a lot of pull on that fish, and those fish are going to use that current to fight me. It still seems surreal that I'd travelled halfway around the world to fish on a river for a massive prehistoric freshwater fish on a Waverunner. And despite the look of relaxation, my blood was pumping with anticipation. There's a lot of waiting with sturgeon fishing. It's a bit like game fishing. You never know when that big one's going to come along. You can be sitting here for hours on end, a bit like when you're trolling lures for marlin and you think, why do I do this? And then all of a sudden that big one will bite and it makes all that time worthwhile. So hopefully something's going to bite shortly. One of the things I love when travelling and meeting new people and fishing new locations is the different ways that people fish. If I was at home fishing for kingfish or snapper, I'd probably be using a circle hook if I wanted to release the kingfish. I'd be using a fluorocarbon trace of varying strengths. Certainly if I was looking for big kingfish, I could be using up to 170-pound fluorocarbon trace. What we're using here is we're using a mustard hook with the barb crushed down hard because this is a complete release fishery. And we've got, as bait, a little thing called a lamprey attached to the hook. We're using Dacron. So we're not using fluorocarbon, we're using Dacron. Up to a swivel with some beads on. And I'm not 100% sure of why they use these beads. This one here stops it obviously hitting the top of the rod tip. But they also look a lot like salmon eggs to me. And the salmon, they come up this river to spawn. So that is generally, I guess, a good reason for using them. And a big sinker, real big currents. And depending on where you are on the river, the current can change. It can go anywhere from probably the least we've seen is about 2 knots, 2.5 knots, right up to about 4 knots. So we're using a 26-ounce sinker here, but could use right up to a 32 or even bigger, just to make sure we hold the bottom. One of the deceptive things about these fish is the size of their bite. You'd think with the size of the fish and the size of their mouths that they would come in and they would just hoover that bait up, but they don't. They haven't got very good eyesight and the water is very murky. So they use their smell and they come in, they'll come upstream, sensing out that smell, and they'll be using their barbels underneath their chin, quite a lot like this actually, and they'll find your bait and you'll see a few nods on the rod tip before the bite happens, and then even the bite can be no greater than you would get from a 2-pound snapper. It's really weird, but when you put that weight on, boom, the fish is off. They'll often come up, they'll jump, they'll be burning everywhere trying to bust you off, and the fight is on. Here we go. All that waiting, and I'm hooked up. It's done a couple of jumps, and it's looking good. instantly feel the power of these fish. Just massive, drifting down a river. So the added complexity on the ski is that I need to keep it pointing upstream and keep it straight. I can go with them, but I want to just keep it pointed upstream. That's the key at this stage. That's my goal. Looks like he's going to do a jump. Here he comes. Oh, what a fish. Having seen the fish jump a couple of times now, I knew this was the largest fish I'd ever fought from a ski. The current's about 2 or 3 knots where we're fishing. In other parts of the river it can get even worse. It can get even stronger. Oh, he's right under the ski now. Just becomes a stalemate. If you've ever fought a shark, it's a cross between a shark and a marlin. Goes on big runs, does big jumps, he's got some power. And when he wants to dig down, he just digs down deep, and that's what he's doing now. Using the current, and I'm just trying to keep over the top of him as much as I can. He's heading upstream now. After about 10 minutes, we got our first look at each other beside the ski. Clearly he didn't like what he saw and headed back to the bottom in search of freedom. It's so hard to deal with these fish at a boat, let alone a ski. So the safe way is to try and get him to a beach. He's a good size, well over 100 pounds, which is a massive fish, and look at the power. Like any big fish, you cannot rush the fight. These guys have got so much energy, so much power, massive big tails, massive big fins, and you just cannot rush the fight. It's just so much weight, and when he wants to, he just turns. If I feel him turn, I'm trying to keep as much weight on him as I can to keep his head in one place. But if you give him just a touch to turn, he'll turn and he'll be gone again. You'll lose another 20 metres, and we're only in 20 metres of water, so I don't want to get down into all those logs and branches and stuff that's on the bottom. I'm going to try and tow him in. There's a little beach. I've just drifted up towards a little beach. I'm going to try and slowly tow him over. Just coerce him. Kind of like you do a kingfish away from the reef. See this beach in front of me, but I'm worried I might have overshot before I've gone in. The current's going to be taking me down this way. Oh. Current's taking me down river, and I've got to try and get him into there before I get past, because I'll never get him back up river. Here he comes. Adam and the team had found a small sandy spot for me to land on, and the fight was almost done. It's all about conservation with this species. It's a complete 100% release. You're not allowed to keep anything. But, so you've got to be really careful with them. That's why I'm just easing him into shore. Don't want to keep him on for too long. I just want to ease him into shore, unhook him, and let him go. Just going to come in over there. Yep. It's here. What? Well, I can't. I'm here. Oh, shit. Okay, let's get him ashore. Hang on, where's he gone? Here he comes. See how much power, look. He's been on for about 15 minutes. We're in the shallows and he's still trying to swim away hard. That's why they're such a successful species. Don't reel anymore.
Come this way.
Why are we going this way, just so I know? Okay, I want a picture of the ski.
Of the what? Of the ski. Oh, okay.
I had done it. I'd travelled 11,500 kilometres from Auckland to a little town called Mission to fish for this massive beast on a Waverunner, and finally this world first box was ticked. So there we go. That's how it's done. A prehistoric sturgeon on a ski, 6.5 feet long, that thing, over 100 pounds. What a massive fish. I've come a long, long way to get it, spent a long time sitting here waiting for the bite, and boom, we've got it.